Hi to anyone that has joined us so far. My name is Sunny Mullen and I am the Outreach Manager with Help Hope Live. We're going to give a minute or so for anyone else to join on to the Hope Talk today, and then we will get started with our presentation. So thank you so much, and we'll be back with you in about a minute or two. All right, I just saw a bunch more people join in, so I just wanted to let everyone know and say thank you to those of you for joining us. And my name is Sunny Mullen. I am the Outreach Manager here with Help Hope Live. We're going to give one more minute to any latecomers and then just get started with our presentation with our Hope Talk on the tips and tricks for fund requests. So thank you so much, and we'll be back with you in about 30 seconds. All right, let's get started here today. Thank you so much for joining us. As I mentioned a little bit ago, my name is Sunny Mullen and I am the Outreach Manager with Help Hope Live. And we are here today with another installment of our Hope Talk series. Today we'll be talking about tips and tricks for fund requests, which is really important for all of you to be able to, easily be able to submit your fund requests to us and help us with your process. So joining us today, we have Laura Jefferson, who is our finance coordinator, and she is the one behind that fund request email. She is the one that is taking care of all of your requests Monday through Friday, answering your questions. So we're so happy to have her here. Few disclaimers. I just want to let you guys know that this will be recorded, and there will be a Q&A at the end of this session. So if you have any questions regarding fund requests, please keep them to the end. We do have a chat going on, so you can certainly be active in there. And thank you so much for joining us. So I'm going to pass it off to Laura now and let her continue on with the presentation.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to talk to you about the fund request process here at Help Hope Live. I'd also like to thank Sunny for asking me to present on this topic and everyone who helped put this together. Fund requests, like Sunny said, are a huge part of what we do here to help our clients. And I'm going to share some tips and tricks that'll hopefully make it easier for you to submit fund requests. So let's get started. I am Laura Jefferson. I am the financial coordinator here at Help Hope Live. So like Sunny said, every time you send in a fund request, whether it's by mail or email, I am the one who takes a look at it. For all of our clients, I put my hands on pretty much each one. So I look through all of the documentation you send in, make sure that we have everything in order to process the request. And I also check it against our guidelines to make sure it falls into one of those medical expenses. So here we go. I will reference a few documents throughout the presentation, one being the fund request form. If you've been a client with us for a while and you've submitted forms before, you're probably familiar with it. If you're a new client, you can find that form on your client dashboard in that section of our website. If not, reach out to your coordinator. They can help you find it. You'll also get all of my contact information at the end of the presentation, and you can always email me. I have plenty on standby, so I can always send you them. Same with the guidelines too, if that's some documentation that you want to have on hand. So with all of our fund requests, it's pretty much the same process for all of our clients, who all have a wide range of medical conditions. And from that, they all have different medical needs, and it's kind of based on their situation and also our clients' preferences. So I'm going to start off with the basics on how to send fund requests and how we disperse the funds. So to send fund requests, you have three options. You can email it, you can mail them, and you can fax them. Emailing is by far the fastest. And what's nice about the email is that you'll automatically get a response back that lets you know that we got your email. It's an automatic reply. That's just kind of peace of mind, let you know that it's in our inbox and we're going to be taking a look at it soon. I would say fax is probably the next fastest, just because it's fairly automatic, fairly quick. And mailing, you can send them by mail. They will take a little bit longer because I'm sure, as some of us know, the mail right now is a little slow. But you have three options, and it's really up to you to kind of decide what works best for you and what your resources are. Sometimes if you're traveling, it might be hard to mail or to find a fax machine. So you have lots of options. So when you send something, what are you going to send me? That is a good question. So we have two ways to disperse funds for you. We can do a reimbursement, or we can pay a bill directly. It really depends on where you need the payment sent. With any disbursement, we do need the fund request form that I talked about earlier. So with that form, that gives us the permission to send funds on your behalf. We do need the full form filled out. That's a little tip, because if it's not, sometimes we can't send the payment, and that can hold up a request if we need to reach out to verify information or things like that. So with the fund request form for reimbursement, we would also need a proof of payment, like a receipt for any medical expenses that you've paid in the last 12 months. With a direct pay, we would need a bill, and we do prefer and require a current bill, especially if it's a medical bill. And I'll go into that a little bit later. Jumping ahead. So for proof of payment, when I go through the requests, I'm making sure that we have all the documentation. I kind of have a checklist that I go through for each request. If we're reimbursing, which is usually what we would do with a receipt, these are the three things I look for. I'm going to check for a date. I'm going to check for a method of payment, whether that's a check or MasterCard or Visa, and a description that for the goods or services that are being provided. And if you ever have questions, or you think like a bill might say invoice on it, and you aren't really sure if it would be, if we would consider that a receipt, the best backup I would suggest is a credit card statement. If you pay with a card, usually you have access to credit card statements, and that is really the best way to best thing to send us that will show your payment. It'll have the description of who you paid, the date, and the amount, so that we really like those. For medical bills, so we all know, because we're here, medical billing is really difficult to follow. So in our finance department, we try really hard to make as many notes as possible when we're paying a bill, so that we know we're not overpaying or paying for a data service that we already paid for, because getting a refund and all of those things can take a long time. So I check for these 4 things: the dates of service that are on the bill, the account number that's either, sometimes it's attached to the patient, sometimes that might be attached to the date of service or the type of service. I will also check for the billing information, which is probably my number 1 important thing, and then the amount due. I'm going to show you guys some good documentation, the stuff I really like to see when I come in on Monday morning and have a bunch of emails. This is the good documentation that I love. Here are some receipts. So if we take a look at these, the things I really love, all of the photos are really clear. Everything is really easy to read. You can read the numbers. The descriptions are very clear on the pharmacy bills or the little pharmacy tags. I can see who the client is. I can see what the price is, when it was filled. On the CVS receipt, it has a very clear description. It has all the information I'm looking for. And the other important part is that nothing is cut off. So I have the picture is the full receipt. They're not like little wonky or crumpled or anything like that. So these are really, really awesome receipts. Get very excited when you see these. Okay. And here's some examples of medical bills. So the green one on the left looks like it's a front and the back. These aren't actual bills, or this one isn't. So it will show the recipient's name. It has lots of information here. It looks like the dates of service, if there were dates of service. You can see like the type of what they're charging for. This also shows that it went through insurance. And then the other important part is at the bottom, it has that please make checks payable to. That's really important. I'll talk about that next. So this is really awesome. Love that bill. Really great. And if you see the one on the right, so this has a similar amount of information, very clear, has the dates of service, which are awesome. It would have the patient name, all those good things that we like to double check. It's 1 page, but you can see it says page 1 of 1. So I like to check that. But if you're sending bills in, the more the better. Send us all the pages. That way we can pull out all that information that we need. And we don't need to keep going back to you to ask for the dates of service or all these little bits of pieces that we pull together to reference and to make sure that the payment goes to the right place and is applied to your account correctly. So this is the payee information. This is what I was saying is my number 1 thing that I check for anytime we get a medical bill. I put the little purple box around here to show what it is in 2 different formats. So this says, if paying by check, please make check payable to or remit to. So this is super important for a lot of medical facilities. They receive payments in different ways. They all do their billing slightly differently. No 2 medical bills will ever look the same. So it's a bit like a scavenger hunt when we look for the information we need. This is one of the things we look for because sometimes, for example, on this bill on the left, it'll say Northwell Health at the top. But if you see in the little box here, it says Lenox Hill Hospital. So the logo on the bill may not be who the check needs to be made out to. Oftentimes that's the case. and the addresses 90% of the time are different for where they send the check to versus where other correspondence goes. So if we keep asking for bills or the hard copy or the full bill or some of the lingo we use, this is what we're talking about. So this is what we like to see. It really makes our jobs easy. It makes it really easy to process the bill, to send a payment, because we know for sure that that's exactly where they need the bill sent. And then we don't send it the wrong place or it ends up in limbo. So we want to avoid that at all costs. So here's some examples of documentation we can get that makes it harder for us to process, if not, or we might not be able to process it at all based off of the documentation. So here are some receipts. As you can tell, it's not your computer screen. They are blurry. They're a little hard to read, as you can probably try to make it out. On that first one, it's hard to read the dollar amount. It's hard to read any of the words. So I can't check what date it was paid or what it's for, or even the amount to reimburse. The one in the middle is a little bit easier. You can kind of read the $90, but it looks like it's kind of cut off. It doesn't have the client information. If I had another receipt for $90, I might not be able to verify which is which. And this one on the right, it's a little bit easier to read, but you still kind of have to squint your eyes. And there's a lot of information. So trying to figure out exactly what the client wanted to be reimbursed for, or was trying to send me if it was a bill or something. So the clear photos with for like a receipt is the best thing to send. I know it can be difficult, but just making sure that the lighting is good, that you're taking it on a flat surface so that there's not like on that first one, a curl in the paper. The best photos you can send really help a lot. And then we don't have to email you or call you and say, hey, can you resend these? I know that can certainly be a pain. And these are some medical bills. So from these, we would not be able to pay them just because of the way the photos are sent. The first one, you can kind of see some information, but it's cut off. So this information here, the Radia INCPS may be the payable to information. It might not. There's not really a whole lot of information. I see some numbers, but not a lot. So we wouldn't be able to pay anything off of that photo. The second photo we have, this comes through quite a bit. This tends to be like a billing summary, which I think are really great for clients who are paying their bills online, because it gives you a really good snapshot of what the bill is for and the amount. But unfortunately, if you wanted us to pay the bill, it doesn't have any of the information we need to send a check. So when you go online and you go log into the hospital or the portal, and it has this nice, really big green or red pay now button, unfortunately, we don't pay it bills like through that way. We send checks in the mail. So that's when we need all that payable to information we went over earlier. This does have some of the information, but it doesn't have all the detail. It's not the full bill. It's just a nice summary, excuse me, but not something we would be able to pay off of. So when submitting requests, we do cover more than just medical bills and prescriptions. Some of the things we can help with are the client's portion of a phone bill. We can also help with medical insurance, and we can help with per diem or a daily food allowance for medical appointments. So that's really awesome. And if only all the fund requests were basic, but just like our clients and their needs, they come in a variety of shapes and forms. So I'll go through some of these fund requests that are a little bit, I don't want to say more complicated, but there's a little bit more to them. They might just require a little bit, thought ahead of time to make sure that you have all the documentation that you need. These requests are like the per diem or the daily food allowance. If you have to relocate for a medical purpose, there's a lot of expense along with that, and I can help you kind of simplify what you will need to, the documentation you'll need to get reimbursed for that. And also our new caregiving policy. So they do take a little bit more documentation. They can take a little bit longer. And to help simplify this, because I know it's a lot to understand and a lot to digest, I put together some icons that will hopefully help you remember what you might need. And maybe you can try and guess what documentation is needed based off of just the icon. For example, for per diem, so based off of the icon of the little stethoscope and the calendar, we need something that shows your doctor's appointment. It can come in a variety of shapes and formats, such as like a handwritten doctor's note works, or from a nurse, past appointments. Also, a lot of our clients have access to a patient portal, depending on where they have their appointments, but we use a lot of screenshots of those that shows when you had a doctor's appointment, what type of doctor's appointment. So if you have doctor's appointments in person, I know for a while those pretty much stopped, but if you're back in the going to doctor's appointments or in the hospital, we can help with the per diem rate. If you go by yourself as the client, it is a $40 a day rate. If you're in the hospital and your caregiver needs to submit for per diem, or if you would do it on their behalf, it's also $40. If you guys go together, it's $65 for both of you. So that may change year to year. So it is on the second page of the fund request form. It's always a good place to double check those figures. So that's really great. And when you submit for it, you just want to put the dates that you want to request and then the doctor's appointments that match up with those. So it's always good to have doctor's appointments or photos of your doctor's appointments. We use it for a lot of things. So it's always good to keep those on hand or photos of them. So here's the medical relocation. What you would need to submit depends on how far you have to travel. So if you're going down the street or if you have to fly across country, it's similar, but a little different. If you're driving, you can send us the map, like a Google map, MapQuest, that just shows me how many miles you drove. And you could submit for the mileage. Or if you had to fly, you can send a receipt showing how much your flight cost, and we can cover it for our client and one caregiver. Then we would also need the doctor's appointment that we just went over, why it's very important to keep those, excuse me, and a receipt for your lodging, whether that's at a hotel. I know some of our clients use Airbnb. So whatever that might be, we can use a receipt for that and get you reimbursed. And we have caregiving. So our policy recently changed. Right now, what we do is we can reimburse you for any caregiving expense. So what we would need for that is a receipt showing the dates of service on the days that they were provided. So some of our clients pay direct, others pay through a service, whichever works best for you in your particular circumstance. Just like I said, they vary significantly and are very unique. But with that receipt, we can reimburse you for those expenses. It's a lot easier, a lot more straightforward than we used to do. So that's really, really been great for a lot of our clients. Now, we've covered a lot so far, a lot of details, a lot of things that I'm sure you may not have thought of. But if you want some pro tips, you really want to be good at this, I have some tips for you guys. It is all in the details and it's a lot to cover, but I think this will really help get your bills paid faster, get reimbursed faster, hopefully make things a lot easier. So tip number 1 is to email the fund requests. It's a lot faster. We see it for a lot of our clients. If you have access to email, I would highly suggest emailing us your requests. If you need help, always reach out. We can walk you through it. Once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. And then good photos. So like I showed you in the good examples of documentation, clear photos on a flat surface. And then when it asks you what size to send the file, the larger, the better. You need to send 10 emails, that's okay. But as long as they're easy to read, then I don't have to go back and we don't have to go back and forth and try and resend that information. The full bill. So if we're paying a bill for you, front and back, both pages, all of it. Even if it's super long, we can always delete photos, but we can't make them. So the more the better. And then if you're sending a long fund request, if you can send all the pages together in one file, that really helps out a lot. Or if you're sending it in one email, that way I don't have to kind of pick pieces together. I might miss something. It is a very manual process. And I am human sometimes, but if you can send them all in one file, that makes it really easy. I know I can kind of fully understand what your intention is as far as getting reimbursed, or if the numbers don't add up, I can email you and let you know as soon as possible. So those are kind of my four tips and tricks. Sorry, going ahead myself. So I'm sure you guys have lots of questions. I know we went over a ton of information today. Hopefully I didn't talk too fast for anyone, but this information will be available. So if you need to go back and reference something, you'll definitely be able to. Here's my information. You have my phone number, my extension, our fax, if that's how you prefer to send us requests. And then the fund request email, which is the best one to send. If anyone's sending documentation, that is the best email address for that. So if you guys have any questions, anything I can help with, I'm here to help. I also have a coworker, Debbie, who helps me with the email. So if you get a response or reply from her, we're tag teaming it. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions or anything I can help you with.
Awesome. So Laura, and one question that came up while you were talking about the relocation and the per diem is if you could maybe touch upon how that works with minors and parents. Because I know that the circumstances might be a little different there.
Yeah, so anytime we have minors or as clients, it would be the minor is the client and the parent would be the one caregiver. If there's an unusual circumstance where they might need two, just email me. There are a lot of one-off circumstances with fund requests just because each client experience is different, each of their needs are different. But for the most part, if it's a minor, they would be considered the client, and then the one parent would be the caregiver.
The next question that just came in, which is really important, is how to handle fund requests over $10,000. How do you guys prefer to do the lead up to that? What kind of documentation do you need, and how do you prefer to pay those?
Awesome. Yeah, love this question. So the best thing to do is just send us an email saying, hey, I have this fund request coming in. It's probably going to be over $10,000. That just clues us in and we know to look out for it. The other important thing to keep in mind with that is it does need additional approval. So the turnaround time will be a little bit longer, and that's just something to keep in the back of your mind when you're submitting it. So just give it plenty of time for me to look over it. It goes through a couple different hands, so it can take a little bit longer to process than our normal processing time.
So the next question that came in is about reimbursements and direct deposit. And so how do you guys handle direct deposit payments, whether it's to a vendor or to an individual? How do they set that up, and how does that work throughout the week and with your check batches?
Awesome. Yeah, so we have a direct deposit form that will also be in the client dashboard with the other resource pages. So with the fund request form, your coordinator will have it. If you need it I can always email it to you as well. So the it would be a form, and then we would just need the additional backup, like a voided check. We can use a photo of a voided check, or we can use like a snapshot of your account and routing number from your online banking as a backup verification. And that goes for the same as clients as it does for vendors. We just put it in our accounting system, and yeah, it goes out the same way that checks do. It just reaches you faster.
Yeah, so what's the turnaround on that then?
So for direct deposit, it's 1 to 2 days. It does depend on your bank, whereas checks go in the mail. So
maybe not 1 to 2 days then.
Probably not 1 to 2 days. It'll take a little bit longer, but clients have different preferences, so it's up to you. If you do a lot of reimbursements, I would highly recommend direct deposit. If you're working with a vendor or a provider and they are willing to give their account and routing number and fill out that form, that's great. They get paid a lot faster. So the more direct deposit we have, the better. We love it.
Nice. So next up, someone had just asked if you could revisit the per diem. What is it for, who it's for, how much? Just maybe go back to that a little bit.
Sure, let me go back to that slide. There it is. So per diem it's a flat rate that we reimburse for food while you're at your doctor's appointments. So for example, if you have 3 doctor's appointments on Monday and you have 1 on Tuesday and 1 on Wednesday, it would be 3 days of per diem, so the daily food. And all I would need is the doctor's appointments that showed me when you had your appointments. It's not per appointment, it's for every day that you have appointments. So we wouldn't need, so if you have doctor's appointments all day, I don't need your food receipts. You just need to send me the doctor's appointment, and you can request either the $40 for yourself, or if you're traveling with a caregiver or parent, family member, you can request the $65.
Awesome. So it doesn't look like we have too many other questions at the moment. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that if there's any last minute things that you'd want to address or bring up, but this has been a fantastic presentation, and I really appreciate you going into all of this detail for our clients and their families. So is there anything else or one last time for anyone else viewing that might have some questions live? But like we said, we can always answer any of your questions after the fact. You can email to fund request and get Laura directly. Or you can always call our 800 number and speak to someone directly on the phone. So if you have any questions, we'll leave it open here for a minute. But Laura, any closing words?
I would just say the more information you can send us, the better. Because all of our clients have different medical conditions, sometimes I'm not necessarily tuned in to what your needs might be. So if there's something like that's kind of like a daily household thing, but it's medically necessary for you, just put a little note in there. That always helps me, gives me more context, and I can, go ahead and process it. I don't have to email for clarification. I'd say the other thing is, if there's an expense that you're not really sure about, you can always get a doctor's note, and that, if you have a doctor's note, will help with that expense. So, and if you have questions, like Sunny said, please email me. We're in the email all day, so you'll get a response from either me or from Debbie.
And I think one thing you had just mentioned, and so I apologize if I'm reiterating a little bit, is that yes, we have the guidelines, but if you're not sure if we cover something, please just ask, as opposed to just assuming we wouldn't cover it. Because
Absolutely.
Our finance team really does everything they can to be able to cover the bills and the expenses that you have and that you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes they're not typical, because each person is different. Each person might be going through a different physical therapy or need a specific item that isn't a typical medical expense, but we really try and cover all of that, because we know it just depends on the client. So medical expense is a very broad spectrum.
So we did actually just get a great last question here.
Awesome.
That says, what happens if there is an expense that comes up that might go beyond what is currently available from what the individual has raised in their honor?
So we tend to reimburse all the available funds. If you're asking for more funds that are available, we'll reimburse what is available. I can always hold on to a fund request if you plan to do more fundraising, or if you think another donation might be coming in. It's always best just to give me a heads up and say, hey, I think more funds are available. I'll go back, pull the request, and we can submit it again for a second disbursement for the difference.
And then in that same respect, then how do you guys do partial payments sometimes if you're paying directly to a vendor?
We can, yes, we can do a partial payment. We do like to get confirmation that the provider will accept a partial payment, but we will do a partial payment. Usually we'll always let the clients know, we'll let you know if we're doing that, and that there's still a balance.
Or that sometimes you might ask the client to provide the confirmation that the other part is being taken care of from an outside party.
Correct. Yes, especially we do that a lot with vans.
Yeah.
So with
those
vans,
larger than 10,000, yeah.
With large purchases, we want to make sure all the funding is available. We like to send our check last, so that everything is already finalized, nothing's going to fall through, so that those funds don't get held up in any way.
All right, well, I think that might wrap it up here for us today, but this has been a lot of amazing information. This will not be the last time you hear from Laura, I promise. I think there is a lot more to learn from our finance department, and it'll be incredibly beneficial for all of you and make your lives here with Help Hope Live a lot easier. So thank you guys. Thank you, Laura, and thank you guys for joining us today. And again, if you ever have any questions, if you're submitting a fund request, please send it to that fund request email at fundrequest@helphopelive.org. Thank you for joining us today, and we're going to end our Hope Talk here for now. We'll see you next time.